All right. So full disclosure before I start, literally we decided yesterday to make a presentation today on Character XYZ. So we do have like a slide deck and I have like some speaker notes that I'll be referring, but I do have to turn on my video so that I can control the two screens. All right. Just for the introduction, my name is Zeno Saviour. I'm the founder and CEO of Character XYZ with over a decade of experience in the gaming industry. My past experience includes engineering roles at top AAA studios such as Epic Games, Warner Brothers, Magic Leap, and 2K Games. And during my time in the studios, one of the things that I discovered was that the traditional character pipeline had several issues. It had like too many tools, pipelines, stakeholders, leading to significant friction. So I saw an opportunity to enable a unified system for character-related processes. So I started to ponder, what exactly is a character comprised of? We are all familiar with humanoid representation of characters. Many avatar platforms, including those presented here, heavily focus on humanoids, which certainly have a broad range of applications. So we know humanoid characters are very important. But what about non-humanoids? Can they be included in this standardization effort as well? So let's do a thought experiment. So this is going to be an interactive one. So how many of you think this is a non-humanoid? If it is a green check, you can use the reaction feature. If it is wrong, you can use the wrong reaction feature. Obviously, the answer is in the screen, but just to make it interactive, if you guys want to participate. Yeah, I see some answers saying that these are not non-humanoids. That is indeed correct. All these characters are, in fact, humanoids. What about these ones? Are these non-humanoids or humanoids? Yeah, Hideaki says it's non-humanoid. What about others? Yeah, feel free to use the reaction feature to participate. You can also, if you have any comments, you can also use the chat feature to participate. Yeah, Daria says this could be humanoid. Yeah. So this one can be tricky. It like from our like different people can have different opinion. Like for example, in this case, this character technically can share a humanoid skeleton, and the same thing with the robot can share a humanoid skeleton, but they might not comprise of the same facial blend shape similar to a human, right? So from Character XYZ's perspective, we will put this in the bracket of non-humanoid, but still, I understand that there is like a gray area here, which can be argued whether it is humanoid or non-humanoid. Now, what about this one? Yeah, feel free to clear your previous answers and input your new answers. Yeah, Hideaki says yes. Others feel free to input your response as well. I see like one no to non-humanoid. Yeah. Again, for all these questions, like there could be different opinions. I'm gonna just share our opinions and viewpoint. And in this case, the presence of a tail goes beyond the construct of a humanoid. Although technically we can share a humanoid rig for this character, we won't be able to see any movements in the tail, right? So in that case, we will treat this as a non-humanoid. All right, what about these one? So we have a husky and we have a dragon. Yes, correct. It's a definite non-humanoid because there's no way you can share a humanoid rig or even a humanoid facial blend shapes. So that's clear that this one is non-humanoids. All right. So we pondered if we could categorize these character skeletons into classification. And thankfully, science have already defined modes of locomotion based on how beings navigate. And we can leverage these classification for our character use cases. These includes the ones listed on the screen, such as bipedal, quadrupedal, tripedal, hexapedal, octopedal, based on the type of locomotion that specific character will have. And the subtle nuances present in these non-humanoid characters can make standardization challenging compared to humanoids. And that's half the battle. We also need to consider the character size, spawning method, and related features. Our solution was to identify these differences and create metadata that would inform the importer in a way that allows for consistent processing of assets across engines. We also needed to establish a CXYZ standard so all our importers could process the assets in a consistent manner. So as shown in the screenshot, like our metadata is like really large. We have like thousands plus lines of code. But in this specific snapshot, we can see like some really important classification that I have listed here. That includes the terrestrial locomotion, character size, what standard the character is using, authoring source, whether it is like authored by a human or it is authored by AI. And we also have this concept of upgrades for each character. So they can have their own generation and they can have upgraded generation, which could bring in new features, new standards. So the characters will be continuously supported. And also like the intellectual property is another important one. So based on who contributed to the creation or the ownership of that specific IP, we can also attribute that IP owner. Now, yeah, so now our characters, all our characters come with different styles, animations, textures. So we decided against bundling them into a single extension or file. Elements that can be shared across engines are inputted through our character API, while engine-specific features such as physics, behaviors, LODs are handled at the SDK layer. This required an infrastructure-based solution to stitch these assets together on demand. And again, like in this case, if you notice, I have mentioned like what type of extensions we use across those individual element of the character. And here is how the runtime stitching preview looks like. The character is spawned instantly with no additional configuration through our SDK, and changing the character is as simple as modifying a string. As demonstrated here, we can load the Tamashi and Daku, which are two character names in our platform, back to back almost instantly. We have optimized our implementation using async callbacks to avoid interrupting the FPS while performing these operations. As a result, we have created a character as a service platform. It offers live streamable characters that save countless costs, increase speed to market, and improve portability with all our characters. And here's how our platform preview looks like. And this is like an actual screen capture from the live platform and not a mock-up. And you are seeing like a range of character offerings on the left side. That includes ninjas, assassins, rangers, cyborgs, mafias, dragons, huskies, bandits, thugs. And on the right side, you can explore the character's full customization options and related features, such as skins and animations, just all using a browser tab. Yeah. Due to the lack of time, I'm gonna leave the questions. I'm gonna give some time for questions towards the end. So if you have any questions at any point, feel free to mention that in the chat, so that I'll make sure we come to those questions at the end of the presentation. But due to lack of time, we won't stop the presentation as we complete the at least the speaker content. All right. So now, what you're seeing on the portability slide are examples showing how characters can be used consistently across different virtual worlds. The first one on the left is a voxel style variant of the ninja character, while the other three variants that you're seeing on the right side is the detailed and the minified versions. And all of them are different virtual worlds, and they are all using the characters from Character XYZ. And one other thing that we discovered while talking to developers is that, especially when we are doing character portability, is we do see varied requirements. Like some developers prefer, like a specific aesthetic style that blends with their environment, while some developers are like open in terms of whatever aesthetic the character is, they are open to support all kind of aesthetics. So to solve that problem, we added a feature called multi-forms, where every character can be represented in a different form. And currently we support the detailed version, a minified version, and a voxelized version, because obviously these representations represent a huger portion of the game industry market. However, there could be countless other art styles that exist in the industry. And from our side, the system is expandable. So as we identify newer styles, we can adopt that in future generations. And we also provide gameplay behaviors as part of our SDK. This allows us to stitch together reusable gameplay behaviors in an engine native implementation. This can support basic features such as locomotion, parkour, and shooting with extensibility and composability. And we support basic customization for every character provided as part of our skin system. In fact, we work with external brands to incorporate their creations, such as clothing and other wearables, through our skin system. So whatever you're seeing on screen right now is an example character called Yukiko. As you can see different skins, different skin variants. And this is another character that we worked with another brand who made an exclusive skin clothing for this specific character. And these are some examples of characters that we support. As you can see here, we don't have any like limitation in terms of what type of characters we can support. And the main reason for that is the type of approach that we are taking with our system. And for example, just having consideration for like non-humanoids opens our doors to support really variant style of characters. You can see like humanoids. You can see even within humanoids, you can see like humanoids that looks like really different compared to like other characters. Similarly, like it could be non-humanoids that follow a certain biological schedule structure, or it could be completely like a fantasy structure that doesn't even have a classification. And the way we, since like the entire system can be integrated with some of the most popular engines, such as like Unity, Unreal, and 3JS, we did experiment with developers for some time, giving access to our characters, giving access to our SDK, really working closely with them, getting their data and identifying how to close the gap to really help them to push forward with their character implementation. So when they start building a game, instead of they starting at 0, we want to make sure they at least start at 1, so that like they can get to their market or get to their audience faster. And all the worlds that you're seeing on screen right now uses characters from Character XYZ. And yeah, pretty much you're seeing examples of different characters that we saw from our platform, like Husky, there's Huskies, there is Assassin, there's Warrior, there's Mammoth. So yeah, pretty much we have all these worlds that is supporting our characters. Now, yeah, so that's like, so right now, whatever you're seeing is like a preview of the worlds, and all the characters that you're seeing in the current screen is also like characters from Character XYZ. And yeah, feel free to drop your questions in the chat so that we have some good time to make sure we address the questions before we move on to the charter. Yeah, I'm gonna start my screenshot. Yes. All right. So yeah, so that's like a quick overview on Character XYZ. And yeah, as you saw, we use GLTF/GLB for the binaries. Like if I go back to this slide where we do the integration component, as you can see in this slide, for the mesh, skeleton, and animations, we use the GLB variant. For textures, we use JPEG or PNG, and we use the Character API to ingest on demand based on what are the needed mesh and skeleton animation that needs to be processed using our Character XYZ SDK. And this allows us to keep the downloadable content thin because we don't have to worry about like the associated skin variants, or we don't have to worry about the associated animations. Only the needed elements that is required for that specific game world gets downloaded to the client, that gets processed by the SDK, and it becomes functional for the end users.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you have all the characters in your platform, but can you like export or import characters from other other platform?
Yeah. So going back here, for example, right, like here, when we showed the specific format, like for example, like from a platform standpoint, we are not building like an extension, because like I said, the standard is what is important to us, which allowed us to meet our use cases. And we can support like external characters as well. But currently that might require a conversion, or we need to identify like what are those gaps in terms of filling the XYZ standard, and then we can bridge that gap. So for example, here I say that like the standard here is character standard.cxyz underscore char1, right, on the third line of the metadata. And that was done because it informs our importer that, hey, this specific character now conforms to CXYZ char1. So there's a certain way that import will start behaving to process that metadata. Now, similarly, if we identify a new standard, the same thing will be authored as part of the character in the metadata. And as we process it, we'll know, okay, hey, this specific standard is conforming to the specific type. So it needs to have this certain operations to process the character. And in some cases, if the importer doesn't know what to do with it, it just it will just say like, cannot import it. But we currently, this is the idea. So we currently don't have the conversion support. Yeah, that would require like working with other standards organizations to figure out what are the gaps and filling those gaps. But at least from a metadata point, we are thinking about those, supporting how we can onboard external standards, external characters. And if it is an external character, then in that case, the IP owner will be that external creator who's contributing to that character.
Thank you. So like, so that standard can be like, for example, it could be character standard.vrm, and it could be imported into your platform.
That is the intention. Yes, that is why we kept that thing. But obviously, to make sure that works correctly, there will be like, making sure we understand like what VRM has and how do we fill those gap and complete the conversion process. But yes, the intention is that to be able to support multiple standards. So if you use VRM, we should be able to bring that to Character XYZ.
I see. Thank you.
Good question. All right. And I do see a check mark from Arman. I don't know if it is a raised hand or a check mark from the interactive session.
Yeah, no, it was just an interactor.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see a question from Quintil. Yeah, go ahead, Quentin.
Yeah, thank you, Zeno. I wanted to know if your humanoid characters were, for example, sharing the same skeleton, and so I see this metadata. I completely understand it. So it's really cool. But on top of the skeleton, what are they sharing? Do they have the same, I don't know, face, mesh, or skinning? I don't guess skinning, but yeah. So what do they share? Thank you.
Yeah, so another great question. So currently, like we are like essentially like most humanoids can probably like share the skeletons and even the what is that, like the facial blend shapes, at least from a standard standpoint. However, even when we do humanoid characters, right, like we even have like subtle differences. Like I'm going to show you an example. Let's see if I have a better picture of that character. Okay, so for example, all right, let's look at this character, right? So this character is called Tamashi Ninja. And he could be considered as a humanoid, and if you notice, like he has this specific thing that comes from his head, and as a result, what happens is when we build the skeleton, sometimes like there's this external peripheral which also gets part of the rig. So for that reason, we try to create the skeletons and animations different. Like for example, in this case, even when he moves, right, he moves like Naruto. He doesn't have like a normal walk or a normal run. His hands goes back and he moves like a ninja, right? And we don't do the same thing with another humanoid. So every character will behave and move in a different way based on the way they are supposed to. So for that reason, we try to avoid sharing animations, but in very like smaller use cases, we do share animations. Like, for example, if it is like a gun shoot or like, like holding hands, in smaller use cases, we do share animations. But for the most part, it will be unique. Like, the skeletons will be unique. The facial blend shapes will be unique. And obviously there are opportunities where we can identify these shared areas and still try to avoid reusage or try to avoid rework so that we can share at least similar components. And that's why we have this idea of generation. So what we believe is, like, as we upgrade our character generation in time, and as other bodies like GLTF, VRM, as other bodies also like advancing, we will identify like newer ways to share these elements, and probably we'll identify more commonalities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Quentin. Any other questions? Yeah, we do have time for a few questions. Is anyone here interested in non-humanoids? Or working on non-humanoids? Okay. Okay, so yeah, Quentin says no. All right. Okay, we'll give 1 more minute to see if there is any additional questions.
I have a question, Chad, from the Privacy, Cybersecurity and Identity Working Group. You just said these are they're unique. So I suppose in some ways, are they the equivalent of what might or could be used as the equivalent of a device fingerprint? I mean, they're a character fingerprint, so they're unique, which means they're usable for tracking across various domains. Is there any thought about how one might include consent features in the metadata, which might kind of tie it in with don't track or something like that?
That's a really great question. So yeah, so currently, like we were like exploring both the centralized based implementation and decentralized based implementation. And currently, like, since we are providing as a character as a service, it is coming from our backend server, and it is attributed with a unique identifier from backend. But your use case could be much better with a decentralized system, where when it is tokenized, the advantage we have is like we get a unique identifier for that specific character under a collection. And that is decentralized, so everyone conforms to a certain standard. So we have been using ERC 1155 standard. So under the standard, we had tokenized in the Ethereum blockchain, and it allowed us to have that unique identity for each character in a decentralized way. However, that limited us from upgradability, and especially like at this time, with the Metaverse Standards Forum and VRM, GLTF, everyone making advancements. One thing I saw that was these standards and these processes, everything is going to change rapidly, like between this and next year. So for us, having that feature for upgradability was very important. So currently, that was our main driver to make sure we keep it in our backend so we can upgrade it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Go
So
on.
your one line answer would be the decentralized system could give you the opportunity to uniquely identify those characters
With the metadata outside of another ID.
with the metadata, correct? So the way that would work is based on the collection, like when a smart contract is deployed in the blockchain. I don't want to get into the technicals, but once a smart contract is deployed, let's say you have a collection in ERC-1155 standard, then based on the amount of, when every character is tokenized, everything is represented with the token ID. So you can query the collection with the token ID to get the associated metadata. And it is unique in a decentralized way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you like thinking of solutions in that direction?
No, I'm just trying to, because of course, anything that's uniquely identifiable is personal data and just has to be thought about in various ways and who accesses it. So in ad-funded environments, it might become what we're seeing in the web is you have very clear designated formal identifiers, which like cookies or in mobile IDFAs or whatever, but you also have kind of more informal, fingerprinting, which is pulling together the characteristics of a device or a browser in order to probabilistically, but it doesn't sound like it would be very probabilistic, pull those unique characteristics together and then form a separate ID, which enables somebody to be tracked from one context to another without and bypassing an official ID. So that's just what I was just thinking about that and who would have access to the metadata.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't dabbled much with fingerprints, so probably, I don't have a solution, but yeah, so if any of the members in the group, if you have, ideas based on the discussion, yeah, feel free to unmute and contribute. All right, we have 2 more minutes before Hideaki gives a reminder. So any final questions? And Empai, did you also have a Leonardo, right? Did you have a follow-up question?
Sorry, are you calling me?
Yeah, I see that you are unmute. Did you have a question?
No, I have unmuted just to answer your question. No, I don't have any specific question. So in MPAI we are developing one standard for interoperable avatar representation and animation. So all that you have shown is highly relevant, of course.
Awesome. And you mentioned you guys are working on a standard, or like what is the exact name of the, I guess?
Well, yes. The idea is to. I mean, it's not any new original technology as far as I can say, but it will be about putting together something that has already a significant status. So, for instance, we have one issue about being able to represent people's emotion. So our cases are not for humanoids. We try to have as realistic avatars as possible. So on the face of an avatar, we want to be able to express motion. We use the facial action units. So this is an example of the kind of standards or quasi-standards that we are putting together.
Okay. Yeah, and it is for MPEG, right?
I'm sorry.
Are you representing MPEG?
Well, so let me say 2 words about this. So I created MPEG 35 years ago, and MPEG was disbanded 3 years ago. MPEG no longer exists. People who use the word MPEG are misusing the word because, but that's another issue. No, it's not MPEG, it's MPAI, which is moving picture audio and data coding by artificial intelligence. This is the organization based in Geneva that is developing these standards.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that information. I don't know if you're familiar with Quentin. So Quentin, from the participant, he also had a chance to present about their MPEG avatars, like focused on photorealism and detailed facial reactions. And it's there in the Metaverse Standards Forum recording. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I highly recommend checking that out as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, thank you everyone. Great questions, by the way. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave my email here. So if anyone sees any opportunities where you want to chat, want to discuss collaboration, yeah, feel free to drop me an email.